Now that we have gone over all of the pliers, we are going to look specifically at the needle nose pliers and some of the things that we can make using them. I'm just going to use a 20 gauge solid copper wire for these examples. Before beginning wrapping, I always like to smooth out the wire real quick with the nylon jaw pliers. First, we are going to create a basic loop shape by grabbing the wire in our pliers and giving it a twist to create a circle, and then we are going to hold it at the base and draw the long end of the wire down so that it is centered under the loop. Now we are going to make a variation of a loop by holding the wire in our pliers and bending it straight over to create a 90-degree turn, and holding it on that side, we will then place the wire into the pliers, and depending on what size you want the loop to be is where you will place the wire into the pliers. And then we will wrap the long end of the wire back around in the opposite direction to create the loop. Placing the pliers back into the loop, we will use them to hold the loop in place while we wrap the long end of the wire around several times to create a spiral. Once we have wrapped the wire as many times as we want, we'll just take the wire cutters and snip it off. Another thing that these pliers are useful to use for is making jump rings. Placing the wire in the pliers, we'll wrap it all the way around until the end overlaps, and then using the wire cutters, we will cut the wire off flush to the first end. A good tip you should always remember when opening jump rings is that you should push the ends away from each other when opening it and not pull the jump ring apart. And then to close it, you push the ends back together. Because of the tapered shape of the needle nose pliers, we can create a wide range of sizes of loops. This large jump ring I wrapped at the very base of the pliers, and then I wrapped a medium-sized jump ring in the middle of the pliers, and I also created a very small jump ring in the tip of the pliers. Now that we have gone over some of the things that we can create with these pliers, we're going to create a fun ring using the needle nose pliers. First off, you're going to need a ring mandrel in the size of your choice. I chose a size 7. And then we are going to be using this brass wire in a size 18 gauge, which is a nice heavy wire to use for rings. After straightening the wire, we are going to place it into our needle nose pliers about 1/4 of an inch from the tip of the plier, and we are going to wrap it into a loop. Next, we are going to bend that long end of the wire up alongside the loop that we just created. Now we are going to create the back and forth squiggle shape of the ring. Placing the pliers back into the loop, we are going to bend the wire directly over to the right, and then taking the pliers out of the loop, we are going to turn them around, place the wire back into the pliers at the same depth into the tip of the pliers, and then bend the wire again into the opposite direction. Now we are just going to repeat this back and forth motion until it's the length that we need to wrap around the ring mandrel size that we have, always holding the wire in the same place on the pliers so that each loop, or bend rather, in the wire is always about the same size. Once you think you have bent enough of the pattern into the wire, you can go ahead and take the ring mandrel, place the wire on it, and wrap it around to check the size and see if you need to wrap the wire any further. Here you can see it looks like I can add 1 or 2 more bends into the wire before I need to create the loop. So unwrapping it from the ring mandrel, we are going to grab the needle nose pliers and create a few more bends. Making sure that I place the wire into the pliers at the same depth as when I created the other bends. Now that we have finished adding the bends into the wire and it fits on the ring mandrel, we are going to go ahead and create a loop on the opposite end from the first one. So we are going to take that long end of the wire and bend it upwards to match the same angle as the other end of the wire. Now we can place the wire into the pliers and wrap the wire all the way around to create the loop. Then we are just going to take the wire cutters and snip that wire off. Now we're going to take the needle nose pliers again, and at the very base place the loop into them and make sure that it is flat and straight. Now that we have closed off both ends and made them into loops, we can place it onto the ring mandrel and create the shape of a ring. You may find that this heavy of gauge of wire likes to spring back even though you've pressed it tightly onto the ring mandrel, so you can slide it off and use your fingers to press it more firmly into the size that you want. And because the ends are left open, that means this ring is adjustable, so we can press it more tightly together to fit on a smaller finger, and then we can also pull them back apart to fit on a larger finger. I hope you had fun making this ring, and I'll see you in the next section.